the drawing of the cards that took place about half an hour before this forum started. We'll have Mr. McClung speaking first and Mr. Schoeneman second. They will be asked the questions that were prepared for them, as well as a cold question for each. But first, 60-second biography. Mr. McClung, you begin.
Thank you. First off, I'm a single parent, two sons, Andrew 18 and Robert 14. They were both born here in Eureka Springs. They are a part of 4 generations of McClungs who have lived here. My parents and younger siblings moved to Eureka Springs in 1971. I rejoined the family when I came here in 75. Joined the family real estate business as a broker in 1976. The Eureka Springs business in existence for 33 years now. I also have a niche retail business here in town known as the Amish Collection. I retired from the Eureka Springs Volunteer Fire Department, a captain, after 20 years of service. I have done much volunteer work in and around Eureka Springs, but most recently, and city directed as a planning commissioner for nearly 2 years before becoming an alderman in 2005. And I have seen many changes in Eureka Springs.
All right, Mr. Schoeneman.
Thank you. I'm Eric Schoeneman, and I'm running for city council. I grew up in Mountain Home, Arkansas, where I attended high school there. My parents are old enough to be my grandparents, so I have a much different way of looking at things generally. After high school, I attended Purdue University, where I studied mechanical engineering and industrial design. Having graduated there, I decided to entirely skip the corporate world and become an artist blacksmith instead, where I studied metalworking and other engineering pursuits, different mechanical construction, that sort of thing. I eventually settled in Eureka Springs, and about 10 years ago, became a local artist. For the last 5 years, I've been on the Planning Commission, volunteering my time here. And just recently, my wife and I have celebrated the birth of our first child about 9 days ago. And I would very much like your vote on November 7th. Thank you.
All right. Now the first question, asked first to Mr. McClung, and that is, what do you think is the most important issue facing the community, and why?
Well, the most important issue, is the maintenance and improvement of the quality of life of the residents and business community of Eureka Springs. And to accomplish these goals, we need to understand that tourism at this time is our sole industry, and this is what pays the bills to run our city, directly and or indirectly. And directly through tax revenue generation by the CAPC tax that covers the expense of selling our product, which is us, our town. By a major share of the auditorium expenses also, festivals and many other city events, as well as jobs. Indirectly and or directly, that funds the city services, fire protection, public safety, sanitation, to name a few, by the city sales tax revenue that is collected by the businesses, separate from the CAPC tax. That's for these services. Our tourists these are paid for by our tourists and our visitors. Also, tourism affects our property values. Less tourists, lower property values equals less money to operate the city, which again equals lower quality of services and fewer jobs. It's not a good scenario. We need to keep the CAPC. There are those who are opposed to it. However, I believe those who are in charge at any particular time, now or historically, have done the best job possible. Yet this is a job for all. We need all of us involved to build the tourism industry.
Mr. Schoeneman, 90 seconds.
I think the most important issue today facing our community and city is that the local citizens recognize our outstanding natural resources here that make this place so unique and so different from where all our tourists are coming from. It's very necessary in that area to preserve what we have now once this awareness has been raised. Living here, we don't tend to realize how beautiful this is until we go traveling elsewhere and we see how everywhere else is being so bulldozed into uniformity by following standardized federal and state regulations. We need to recognize this and take steps now to save this before it's demolished. There is no amount of funding that can return to us what we have right now once it is lost.
All right. Thank you. Second question, first to Mr. McClung. What would be the first ordinance you would try to have passed in 2007 if elected?
If it were up to me, the ordinance which I would like to have on the table first in 2007, would be the restructuring of the CAPC. According to changes the CAPC commissioners have requested from the City Council in the form of a resolution. This would allow the Council to change the makeup of the Commission as well as to define and redefine the tax collecting entities and possibly change tax percentages as well. Remember, we need to stay focused on what drives the city, and it is tourism.
Mr. Schindler?
The first ordinance that I would be interested in passing, at least at this point until I hear of something else that would be appropriate as I'm elected, would be to establish our 5-mile territorial jurisdiction around the city so as to preserve and protect these very essential gateways to our city. As this is a tourist town, we need to have a transition space between the space where the tourists are coming from and the place where we live now, and where this is something of a wonderland and a paradise. If we have this all bulldozed and demolished, and take a look at what's going down at Leatherwood right now, it's very important to keep strip mines and chicken houses and such like this away from our main entrances. This territorial jurisdiction would provide with the county our asserting our wishes and desires to preserve these areas. This would best protect our and best serve the local residents and local businesses.
All right. Now the questions submitted to each candidate from the other candidate.